a Google search, you'll see a title, a blue title that links back to the website. That's the title tag. And then there's a meta description that's 155 characters or less, and that shows the description with the search when you do a Google search. And then you've also got the website page URL, which is after your domain is the slug, and so the
slash home
yeah.
slash about us.
So you want each of those pieces to have your keyword, the target keyword for that page on there. So you want it in the slug, you want it in the title tag, you want it in the meta description. And then on those pages that you're optimizing, you want that keyword to show probably at least 3 times, but no more than like 6.
It's pretty technical, which is why I was saying it's kind of complicated to try to manage all of it on your own. But if you understand how it operates, you can think more clearly about how to design your stuff, rather than, oh, I love the way this looks and I like the way this sounds. There's some science to it. And so we want to kind of think about that science. And then there's domain authority. And domain authority is really how you measure against, how much authority your page has. So for example, GE is going to have close to 100 because I'm sure that they're an incredible website, versus a local company that maybe just started yesterday. They're going to have a very low authority because they're just not known or ranked or relevant to Google quite yet. But there are different domain authority. You can put in domain authority free, and will go ahead and rank you. And so if you have an existing website, it's always interesting to take a look at it against your competitive analysis. So you usually want to it will ask you for 2 other competitors, and then it'll show you how you perform versus the other competitors out there. So SEO is kind of based on these 3 things. Now these 3 things don't always matter at the end of the day to us as consumers, because as consumers we want to buy your product, find you, be there, think you're awesome. But from a Google standpoint, which is the eye of in the sky, it does matter, and that's why SEO is critical. So most people are going to distill this concept into, where do I rank on a page? I want to be number 1, and that's what my SEO looks like. And so that's really what we're driving to. So in order to make Google happy, we have a few tips and tricks. In general, we concentrate, of course, on that well-rounded approach that I was saying earlier about organic versus non-organic. Organic is really doing things to make your site found and relevant. So blogging is an awesome way to have organic ranking potential because Google loves new, fresh content. So updating your pages is all well and fine, but adding more relevant, fresh information to the site really, really helps the ranking. And so if you balance that with paid search or some sort of AdWords campaign or something, then you're getting kind of a mix of organic versus paid, and that helps get your ranking to be boosted a little bit higher. So you'll notice if you look for something, you'll see those kind of top 3 things that are ads, but they don't really look like ads, they look like relevant. And so those are paid, and then sometimes there's the banners on the side, more ads, and often we ignore those because they look like ads. And then you get into the normal kind of search and ranking potential. And so we want to try to find ways that we get both. Well, ideally a campaign has both pieces because it is helpful to get in front of your target consumer and also organically rank. We want to provide fresh, quality content regularly. So as I said, blogging is a really good way to do that. Updating, adding events, adding information. If you write a press release, put it up on the site, that kind of thing. Implement an effective and ethical link building strategy. Ethical means that it's real. You're not just making up links, and you're not just linking to people that have no idea who you are. And this is one way to really piss Google off. So don't do that. Don't fabricate your links. You want to use content available from text and images, and this is really important. So sometimes we will get a website and somebody will put in a bunch of information, but they do it as an image, and they don't tag the image. And so when Google is trying to find you and rank you and be relevant, it's looking for content. It's spidering all that content. So if an image is taking up the entire homepage and explaining what you do, but nobody knows what the content is because it's not actually considered content, Google's never going to find that. So the way around that is to try to put more content in there, but also to actually tag your images, tag your information, as I was just saying. So you want to make sure you don't ignore that. And so you'll notice also if you go to Google and you search and you look at the image search, so if you ever click on images, how those things are tagged, that's how those are being found. So it's just as important to tag your images as it is to tag your text in your video. Conversational searches are really, really important today because a lot of people search that way. So think about how you search. Do you really search Fort Collins plus dentist? You might say, looking for dentist that does crown blah, blah, blah. So we're thinking conversation, and so we're often typing that way. So you want to consider that when you're kind of building your content. We did a site for an adoption agency, and we were shocked to find that the top keyword search was "shit, I'm pregnant." And so that really opened the door for me to think that is what people search for. They are kind of in a state of overwhelmed feelings, and they are looking at, this is how I'm feeling right now. And I hadn't thought of it quite at that level before, but think about your own behaviors. That's how people search. Ensure that your website caters for the growing mobile market. As I said, websites have to be found on your phone, and in fact, they say that, in the future, nobody's going to be looking for anything on their computers, it's all going to be on their phones, and they won't even have computers or whatever. So that's really important. Editorial links is really kind of backlinking to other content that's out there that's really helping boost credibility. As I said, if you write a press release, it's fine that you wrote it, but if Colorado writes it, you want that editorial link back. There's other ways that you can do that. So anytime you can actually share actual editorial information, maybe you're actually sharing or posting somebody else's story, it helps build your credibility online.
Can I get a jump back to what you're saying about having your keywords be in a conversation format? Does it have to follow that same flow and order of words?
No, it's just really more about thinking about the search. So often we want to think about what people are wondering. It doesn't mean you're always going to be able to tag all your content with that same sentence. It's more, maybe you just write a blog post that starts with it. Maybe you're thinking about it. I think it's important to know that that's how people are searching for you, because it might take you out of a traditional auto 4 columns blah 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 and into something that's far more nuanced to the audience. So it's kind of a trial and error, but it does help. And then you want to really kind of use social media as an asset to your strategy for content, because the social media connects back to the site, the website's important, and we want all those things to be creating behavior and interaction online. So I'm going to try to go fast because I know I'm running out of time. Social media, why does it matter? How many of you think that social media should go away? See, you're young, so nobody thinks so. Well, the sad thing is it's not going away. It's here to stay. And so it does matter because it's a really great way to create interaction online. So websites used to exist as informational brochures. We kind of put them up because we wanted to share information about our companies or products or services. Then they've now morphed into, this is why you should love me, interact with my brand. But a lot of people honestly don't interact on the site itself. It's hard to get people to interact on websites. You might put questionnaires and things up there, but typically that means that you have to ask them to go to something, see the site, take another action. So it's just not a platform that's as interactive as we want it to be. But social media, on the other hand, is. Now the thing that's important about social media is it was designed to be social, and therefore it has a very low tolerance for marketing in a traditional sense. And so as marketers, we have to be thoughtful about how we use it. And so different sites behave differently. Facebook has the least tolerance for marketing. So you'll find that you can do all the perfect campaigns in the world, but Facebook is challenged when it comes to direct promotion. So we have to kind of nuance that. Twitter has a much higher tolerance for marketing. It's a shorter period. It's character limited. And then we have LinkedIn and some other platforms that are kind of balanced because LinkedIn is a directory, so you can share information that's really relevant or educational, but maybe the shape was advertising as well. But in general, the benefits of being social is that it really creates great brand awareness and expands your reach because you can use thought leadership to get people to believe in you. You engage and you excite influencers, and you better understand and identify your potential supporters because you can kind of connect the dots between other people to become interested in what you're putting out there. You can improve customer service and satisfaction. If you ever have noticed when companies get negative comments, the companies that really react to those comments get a positive rapport. It's a good way to actually have a customer service platform and connect with people online. The big one for me, of course, as I've said, is building advocates and community of advocates. You can build loyalty because people are consistently connecting and interacting with your brand, and they're doing it in a different way. Some brands are really good at this, like a Southwest Airlines, for example. They're just good at marketing, period. But they're really good at finding ways to connect the dots and keep people checking their Facebook page for promotions and information and ideas and contests. And so they've done a really good job of cutting through that marketing divide. But typically we want to find some ways to drive loyalty. So say we're on Facebook as a platform, what is a way you might create an interaction or loyalty factor on your Facebook page? Any ideas?
Competitions?
Competitions? Sure. What else? That's a great idea. How about just asking a question? Instead of saying something, we can ask them, What was the best experience, best Halloween, you're a Halloween costume store. Your favorite Halloween costume, post a picture of yourself in Linux. It gives you this very different way to connect with people in a snippet, but get them to interact, and it doesn't always work right away, but it does work over time, and it's very good for your SEO. It allows you to also enhance outbound campaign effectiveness because you can connect social with advertising, social with video, other things you're doing, contests are a great way of doing that. So you'll notice that there's a lot of influencing happening in commercials now, where even commercials are telling you to go to a Facebook page that are telling you to Shazam something, and it just kind of goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of connections of the dots. You can leverage good news about yourself and have that shameless promotion factor without feeling so gross about it. Because if some things are happening and people are talking about you, you can share that information in a shorter snippet, and people don't feel like it seems as shameless for some reason. So it's interesting. And then of course you can attract more traffic to the website. But I think the biggest thing for social media to me that's an advantage, because I truly don't love social media, and Wade will hear me say how much I really don't like Facebook on a daily basis. But I have to use it, it's here to stay. And what I have found that I really love about it is that advocate network, and getting people to talk about you and influence others and hearing what they have to say and sharing your content and sharing your blogs and sharing their content. So it really is a great place for that. It's a great place to share news and information, photos, people, whatever, yeah.
How much do you, there's some conversations I've heard that like, I mean, young people, younger than me, are you now not even making Facebooks for old people, and then Snapchat is the only thing. So what do you see in terms
Unfortunately,
of
the trends are trends, and I think you just have to try to pick the platforms that you feel are most appropriate and work those platforms, and if they seem to be coming out of style or out of date, what is the nuance of that? So you just mentioned Facebook and Snapchat. So Facebook to me is, like I said, the tolerance for marketing is pretty low. So I think it's figuring that out, and it's not really using that platform effectively. But people are now taking Facebook and using Instagram and Snapchat, and those platforms do work together, and you can work them, so what you post to Facebook, post to Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. So thinking about what platforms make sense and kind of working the platform and watching the behavior of the platform can work. And I don't know that some of those big ones will really ever go away. It's a matter of picking the ones that work best for you. And I would honestly say, as a business, I would not pick more than 3 or 4 things that you do really well in a social media space. You can do whatever you want personally, but you will dilute your abilities because it's hard to keep up with. It's not a matter of whether it's going to work or not. It's just constant, and you've got to keep up with it. Other comments? Yeah.
So what kind of ads convert better? Is it Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn? Which of those 3?
We have better success with Facebook, to be honest.
Okay. Why did you say that?
Facebook performs so well because if you think of Facebook, think about your own page. So if you're really active, think about how much information about you exists on your page. Facebook knows more about you than you would ever want to know, to be honest. It's very frightening if you start to get into that. And because of that, you can filter your information in such a targeted way that it serves the ad to the right people, and we get lots of traction. It's cheap also. So it's a wonderful place to dabble in advertising if you want to try it out. Google AdWords and things like that perform well, but you have to keep up with them. You have to spend a little bit more money, and it's harder to actually know if you're getting traction. And I think LinkedIn is coming, but it's a little slow to the game. So it's hard to figure out where people are really paying attention because they have segmented and fragmented their content so much. Whereas Facebook, it's right in your face.
Does AdWords or remarketing convert better?
It depends on the brand. It really does. I would say, do you understand what the difference is? And everybody, so there's a retargeting or remarketing concept. Ad that will follow you, ad that will find you. You saw Boots yesterday, suddenly they popped up on CNN this morning. It's creepy, but it works really well because you've already connected to wanting that product or at least looking at it. So I think it's very successful, but it's a much more expensive proposition because people know that you're more interested. AdWords do well because they are really giving you more reach, get a lot of reach with it, more frequency, but it's harder to convert your leads. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. No? Yes?
I'm just curious if you can kind of say, from all of this, from the social media and the website perspective, what is the action that I want somebody to take? And is that different across different platforms, or is it just sort of like, I just want everybody to just go to my website because that's going to really contribute to SEO?
That's a really good point. And so, of course, what you have to do with any strategy is determine what the goal of the strategy is, right? So So we should always be starting there. So with a website, you would start with, what do I want people to do? Are they picking up the phone? Are they filling out a form? What is it? We need to drive our people to that at all points of contact. With social media, it's a little bit more tricky because the different platforms behave in a very different way. So we create social media plans that highlight the top 3 sites, what we want each site to do, how we're gonna measure it, and what we're gonna do to increase engagement. So it really does depend on what you're doing, but with a website, you must have a key goal in mind. With your social, the idea is what kind of interaction you want with your customer and how can you drive to that interaction. And if it's just about visibility, that's okay, but you wanna be careful with how you manage that. If it's truly about engagement, what can you do to encourage engagement? If it's about dialogue, how can you create dialogue? So you're wanting to think about those things at all points of contact and really have a plan and not just post and kind of, in just at random, because it doesn't really work. Yeah.
How often do you find that posting, like, what would be the frequency of posting that you feel is accessible?
I think that, again, it totally depends on what you do. So if you're Miramont, lifestyle fitness, you're probably posting several times a day because you want to engage anybody that might be thinking of exercise throughout the day. If you're A-Train marketing, a couple times a week because people don't want to read about what we have to say. So I think that it just really depends on what the content is and what you're trying to achieve, but at the limit, or I guess at the minimum, would be a few times a week.
It depends on the platform too. Facebook we usually say 3 to 5 times a week. Twitter 5 to 7. Instagram daily. Blogging
once a week to
anywhere
twice a month.
Yeah.
So it really depends. But and also you want to do what's comfortable and you can keep up with. So if you just decide to do blogging once a month, you just want to maintain it. It'd be better to do 1 blog a month than do 1 blog every 4 months because you can't get it done. So that's kind of the way to think about it. Yeah.
Just to go off, well, answer your question a little bit too, because we've explored how many times to post on things for our company. A good way to find that out as well is look at other companies that, look at American Apparel, see how many times they post on Twitter, see how many times they post on Instagram, and just kind of gauge what you should do off kind of their way.
I think that's a really good idea, and it's also a really good strategy for looking at who's interacting with the brand and how often and what their tone and style is. And so when we're starting to work on blog strategies, we do that a lot to kind of figure out what it is that's creating the interaction. So that's kind of the core of social, and I'm going to be here to answer additional questions, but I want to get through this. So I also, you want to pick a few platforms that work for you. This is a way of kind of distilling what each one does. I think most of you get, Twitter's on eating bacon, Facebook I like bacon, LinkedIn I have the skills including eating bacon. So thinking about what you're trying to communicate with what platform and picking the ones that are most effective. If you have a visual, highly visual environment, I would say like Riverpeel, the things that have very highly visual platforms like an Instagram or a Pinterest will be critical.
Yeah.
Now, typically we might not say Pinterest because Pinterest is very visual. But think about what is going to really resonate and what type of product you sell because those platforms can be determined that way. Creating good content, I'll send this to you guys separately, but the thing that's important here is your mix of content. I know it's really hard to read. It should be informative, entertaining, and unique. And so we don't want to live only in one space. And basically that means I don't want to just have pictures of cute kittens and puppies. I need to have some authentic content in there, but I don't also just want dry information about, SEO. So I want to create a mix. We typically call it a 50%, 25%, 25% mix. 50%, I let you take this one on because you're oh, I can do it.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
So 50% of the information you provide needs to be good, thoughtful content. Whether it is about you, about somebody else, about your product, about your service, but it's not shameless promotion content. There's a difference. So you might be talking about buying a car, the car experience and buying a car, and you can talk about what people are saying in that space. Maybe it's an article in a specific magazine, maybe it's something Consumer Reports has put out, maybe it's about all these new experiences that the car dealers are putting out about the no-hassle buying experience. So you're really sharing leadership content that helps your brand, but it's not just, hey, buy from us, hey, buy from us. 25% can be, hey, buy from us. It can be, this is what we're selling, this is a new service, this is a new product, look at this product. And sometimes if you're in retail, like a clothing company, a beauty brand, you're probably gonna be able to do a little bit more of that because that's what people anticipate from you. They wanna see and buy. And then there's that 25% that's just pure entertainment. maybe has nothing to do with your brand. It might be that cute picture of a kitten or a baby. It might be some sort of silly quote, but it really is just there to kind of create glue for the content. And so when you get this presentation, you can look at this, but this infographic's really interesting because it helps give you ideas of how to do that. And the same thing goes for this one, which is kind of the core circle of what we believe we should be doing in today's marketing environment to be successful. And so we want to make sure that we're figuring out what that objective is. So that's what the goal is for whatever the platform, whether it's my website, it's my brochure, it's my business in general. I want to make sure I've got the team that can do it, because especially when it comes to content marketing, which is the website, the social, the blogging, that is constant. It's not going to go away, and we want to make sure we can manage it. So if that's how we're getting the word out, because a lot of people are going away from traditional advertising based on expense and other things, we have to be committed to it and keep it going. And then you want to create that full annual strategy, quarterly strategy, biannual strategy, whatever's comfortable for you, and empower the people that are behind it to really be successful through confidence and trust building through all points of contact. You need to learn about your industry and what other people are saying about your industry and who cares about your industry, because it helps you share great information. We should always be continuously improving and learning about what people want and see. And then you can create value. So when you create really good content and you create good reasons for people to interact with your brand, the value is there and it creates the advocacy. So then they share your information, because that's really what we want people to do. We want people to share our brand with as many people as possible. And then you build that growth and you can measure success. So this is kind of the core of how we want to filter through a really good program, which is pretty much focused on content today, because that's how you can afford to get the word out in as many places as possible. And so you can see that a little bit more in depth when you get your own. And so the final thing for us, when we're building a great positioning strategy that's focused on loyalty, is defining the goal, knowing the audience, creating a plan, and adjusting it, because it's not always going to work. And if you don't adjust it, you're going to be unsuccessful, and you're not going to want to do it again. And then measuring it. And so how do you measure it is critical, and there's so many tools out there, from Google Analytics and different reports you can run, and asking your customers and surveying your people and knowing what is working versus not. But the measurement allows you to go back and create a plan that's really going to work for the future. And so our thing at A-Train is that we believe that if you are really kind of working forward on forward progress with a group, with a customer, with a team, with your advocate network, then success will take care of itself. And so we're always trying to think of ways that we can build that support system for our marketing platform to help get the message out in as many ways as possible from as many people, because if it's just us telling it, not everybody's going to believe it. And that's it. So thank you. We started really late, so.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. Is there any questions right now for Gretchen and Ray before we kind of break off?
Do you guys have any suggestions for like cheap solutions for Moz's like relevancy and opportunity keyword search? Kind of measuring the holes, where the holes are in the keywords.
You know, I think that there's really there's just so many tools out there. Moz is the one we use, right?
We use Web CEO, but that's a paid subscription.
Moz you can do for
some
free.
stuff with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you do that opportunity search with
I
Moz
don't,
free?
if you probably can do it inexpensively. It might be like a one-time very low fee. I know Moz has a couple spin-offs where you can just kind of pay like $30 to get some reports done, and it's worth it, I think, at the beginning of your business. But yeah, there's a few tools if you Google them, and I typically try to consumer report stuff, like Google the best current free tools. One of my favorite sites for anything content is HubSpot. So if you've not used HubSpot, go there. They are a wonderful bank of resources, from plans, worksheets, tools, tutorials, who's best, who's hot, what you can do, that you can almost find anything there that comes to content or social media marketing.
And the most simple thing, the thing that is free, but it's probably not the best tool out there, Google Keyword Planner.
Mm-hmm.
AdWords Keyword Planner is something that I used to use. So.
Okay.
Before I close and forget, I have business cards if you want them. I also have this worksheet about creating a value proposition. I know you guys are working on that, but this might be a good second step to taking what you've got and filtering down a few additional questions. And I also have our Gray Matter magazine, which is a biannual magazine we put out that is focused on different sorts of important content for today's marketing environment. So you guys are welcome to take that too. All right. Thank you.
amongst yourselves to try to sort of get everything in your brain that Gretchen's just gone over. How does it apply to your business? And thinking through what kinds of questions do you have? Gretchen Waiter here for half an hour, so what kinds of questions do you need to ask them about your business right now while you've got these experts in the room? And so I'll kind of allow them just to move around the room a little bit as you guys are working individually. Usually we kind of say like, so either we can work individually or we can work in teams. Do you guys want some time by yourselves, or would you rather be in kind of a couple groups to chat things out? What's your preference?
Team up.
Team up? Okay, cool. So why don't we go ahead and do, that also I think makes it easier on our coaches. So why don't we do the three of you, so Gavin and Stein and Caitlin, and then we've got Curb Appeal, Side Quest, and Laborjack, and then we'll do Agile, Bandos, and Bege, and Aishel. Does that sound good? So I think that's a good idea, just to talk through things with each other and say, what are the things that Gretchen's talked about, especially when she talked about websites and social media. Are those things that are most relevant? Do you guys need to be thinking about what's going into your brand right now and what kinds of words there are? Then there's also this value proposition worksheet. So it's also kind of where it is that you're at right now. Do you need to be thinking about the branding strategy? Do you really need to be thinking about what's on your website right now? And we can work through those things as you, whatever is like sort of the most relevant thing for you right now. Okay, cool, nice. Let's get going.
I'm sorry, so I'm kind of like a landing page to kind of gauge interest. Right at the gate, is that a good way to start testing the waters and testing your strategy?
Look around. It's probably the easiest.
Like what's the table around?
And with header, the big call to action, minimal content, paragraphs, bullets to people don't post more. They're gonna look for bullet points. You're gonna want some sort of form on there to either reflect their information, and that can also help you build your newsletter.
Or just living the dream. We're back.
Sore from a busy weekend today?
This kid. I did. I did too. I did 2
Going slow. That's
weeks. Picked up.
Okay, so CO.net is free host.
Yeah, I don't know what I think. If you want to add some blue shutters here, or what do you think?
That's going to be something ugly.
We have something for you.
Yeah.
Not a web programmer.
Yeah, just like describing to a T exactly what you guys want to build. I just don't like the way it turned out.
Site speed does it.
Or you're able to add. It's there.
I would say as far as hosting, you're gonna want to like a dot com. I would say where you're at. It's probably so maybe for now that's okay. How does your site look? I know CSU's network doesn't do that. Does it load well? There's social media.
I've never really had problems.
They usually work with like celebrities and stuff around their pages, but I'm sure there's like different agencies that operate.
Do you know the different?
Same person.
Yes, but H1 tags, what
So
platform
like
are you
these,
using?
this is WordPress.
Ooh, now you got a competitive bidding process. We talked about earlier. There you go.
Oh, just the end of this?
Okay.
And try to see that keyword.
So what would like if I was going to go through this process myself? What's the process look like?
Read that contract without.
Well, to the best of your knowledge, I guess. I think I'm going to.
There's not a great call for that.
So try to get.
I'm sorry, I just think that was weird.
So
Where are you guys kind of spacing back and forth? Are you on a monetizer? Are you still taking even trying to sell the contractors? But people say online marketplace.
That's always going to be without adding a lot of
Google keyword planner is probably
kind of shying away from that.
Do you need to have AdWords set up on yourself?
You'll want to have an AdWords account basically to
Should, like, if you do have just a landing page, is it good to get like, so mine's with Wix, but I do have, I own my own page, I just don't have it linked to it. Should I, build all this effort in having a good rating on my Wix?
And what if the customer sees the contractor using it?
your domain is
everything. They would have to pay monthly also.
Right, well, I mean, I have to just start this out and say, like, would Google be ranking, like, just doing all this ranking work on my Wix stuff? So, okay, so right now, the domain's not listed, but if I were to link it, and that changes my website page,
But the goal would be to have it in app form, right? So the customer could then look up the app on the app.
okay, so, KillerMac.wix.com, that's my website. I will sell it as like when I do that.
So I think
It's more of this, because you've done more research. Website, or is it going to like for us to right, but only my web developer for like
or like the second an app comes out that people do pay for, someone releases a version that's like something slightly less beneficial.
yeah, I haven't even, I'm not that far. I don't understand.
Having a free version of this
But that,
start with. So make sure that you do one photo of your house and you get a bunch of stuff and you manipulate it a little bit.
If it's sort of like a website interface, there's a lot of website interfaces. I'm thinking music, Spotify, SoundCloud. You're getting these advantages like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. I don't think anyone can shy away from it.
What if there was you build the platform?
so working on it, but I'm gonna make it live for my. Well, yeah, my best friend's husband owns that well, so he's
So that'll be, so that
But it lends itself to an ad number. Exactly.
yeah, well, like.